activity of kind of looking over the reading notes while the lecture is going on, writing down stuff that the professor writes on the board because that seems important, or better yet, if somebody else is writing down stuff that the professor's writing on the board, oh, that must be important, they're writing that down, so I'll get that down too. Again, highlighting details and information that the instructor lectures on. As far as reading goes, there's a lot of highlighting, again, looking over the text for important terms. And it's interesting that they're highlighting in the text, because a lot of times in textbooks, especially things like biology and chemistry, things are effectively already highlighted, right? Bold terms, italicized terms, and those are exactly the things that students are highlighting again. So they're not really using that information for everything. They're not actively engaging with it. They're just kind of re-highlighting it over again. And in studying before exams, there's a lot of linear kind of chronological going over notes. They kind of try to look at the notes and say, well, lecture 1 and then lecture 2 and lecture 3, and kind of look at them sequentially in that way, when they don't necessarily see that, look, what's happening in lecture 8 has everything to do about building on concepts that you started in lecture 2. They're not quite looking at them synthetically and across those lectures in that way. Also, re-highlighting, rewriting notes and things like that, and writing out, they're great at making note cards. They're excellent note card makers and excellent memorizers, but again, you see that only gets you so far. So given those study tactics, a lot of the responses that we see with that first set of exams are things like, you know, I studied harder than I ever have in high school and I only got a C. So they think they're working really hard, and they are working really hard. They're putting hours into this work, into, you know, they really want to do well, but it's just not the right kind of work. It's just not the right kind of thinking. Another thing that's really common is, what's wrong with me? They don't approach this as, what's wrong with the way that I study? How can I change the way that I learn? How can I change the way that I look at this material? They internalize it immediately. They say, I'm just the kind of person that does well. I'm just the kind of person that did well in high school. That's a part of like who I am. What does that mean for me now when I'm not doing well? Or what's wrong with my professor? Another common one, there's just too much to remember, the sheer volume of material. It's unfair to ask me to memorize all that stuff. How can I do that? I knew everything. You can kind of substitute this, was familiar with, kind of vaguely familiar with. I kind of know the concepts if you say a lot of the other concepts with those. When I got there, when I got to the test, but when I finally looked at it, I blanked, meaning I didn't really know it that well. I didn't really know it in depth enough to answer the questions well. I read the book over and over again, but it just doesn't sink in. Again, this kind of passive engagement with the material, not really looking in depth and kind of forming your own questions about it. My teacher talks too fast to take notes, but expects us to remember everything. Again, you can kind of link this along with what's wrong with my professor. And I write down everything that's important that my teacher says to write down, but then she tests us on stuff that, you know, she never covered or I never saw before. So with that, we're going to kind of move on to another activity, the calendar. Here, Dawn, I can pass this out if you want to introduce yourself.
All right, well, what we're going to do next is talk to you just a little bit about how it is that we do study skills programming. Because usually after this first set of exams, what we have are the students coming in droves, and I'm not kidding, I mean in droves, coming in and signing up for tutoring because they weren't the ones, we like to call them the doobies. The doobies are the ones who come in right in the beginning and they're going to do everything right. Well, it's a free service, I'm going to take advantage of it, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to get all set. And then we have the other kids who kind of trickled in throughout the semester who say, ooh, I'm just not really doing as well as I wanted to. And so what we're trying to help them do is, first of all, take a step back, take a deep breath, and let's figure out what we can do to help you as far as how your study skills go. And a lot of what takes place with them is they really just don't know how to study in this new environment. And not only do they not know how to study in this new environment, they don't know when to study in this new environment. And once they get in it, they're just not really sure what to do when they get there. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do, and it's kind of nice that everybody's kind of already at the table, is we're going to have you just work together quickly. I know everybody loves when we work together thing. There's a stranger next to you, right? But if you could just break up into two or three, and each one of you should have a calendar, and each one of you should have a syllabus. And what we're going to go ahead and do is, I put the directions up here on the board, or on the screen, and what I'm going to ask you all to do is to take that syllabus, which is from our Dr. Bylene in the math department. It's Math 1400, which is, what is that? It's a pre-calculus. Yes, thank you. It is a pre-calc class. And he was kind enough to give us a sample of his current syllabus for the semester. But what I'm going to ask each of you to do in your groups is to, first of all, actually scribe. So somebody who can write down some information. Okay? Now you're both going to be writing on your calendars, but I need you to have a separate piece of paper so somebody can just write down something on the side. I'll tell you what that is in a second. But what I'd like you to do with your syllabi is to identify all of the graded events. So take a look through the syllabus. Anything that you see on there where you're getting a grade, a paper, a quiz, an exam. I don't care about the non-graded stuff, even if it's on there, but just try to identify all the things that are graded. The second thing I want you to do is to write onto your calendars what that thing is, the date that it's due. So if he has exam 1 on January 29th, put exam 1 on your calendar on January 29th. Okay? The third thing that I want you to do is to calculate the percentage. This is so, so important. And we'll talk about why that is after we get through this exercise. But what is the percentage? So again, if on January 29th you have your first exam and it's worth 20% of your grade, put 20% on there. And then again, record in your groups anything that you think, as you're going through the exercise, that you see as being a difference between high school learning and college learning. Does that make sense? Just some of the things that, okay. And if not, just scream out, let us know if you have questions. Well, I think my clock is up.
Okay. So,
I think some people go real fast through this stuff because really they're going to see this as we go through it. I think when it gets time to, I think this is important though. I don't think we should go through this, but I think we should go quickly through it. I do think then.
When is the first day of school? January 1st, I'm sorry, the 17th of January was the first day of class.
what is there? Right, exactly.
You spend all that time next to the West.
I just want to make sure that. Because now I can't pick somebody. Oh, I know how. Mix it up. Do you think it's mixed up yet? I just keep going over and over and mixing them up. All right, so not these. And please, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, now we should be good.
7.
Oh, it's 10.67, I got it.
Oh, no, sorry, that's 16. You're right.
It is 16 point, is it 16? Oh, okay, yeah. No, I write child. What was it, the quiz? That was
First
the
2 quizzes are 5%.
5%.
The third quiz is 6.6.
6.6%. How did you figure that out? You just divided it. Okay. That was like my phone math, I can't give you the next one or something like that.
Right.
April's got nothing, right?
Yeah.
Everything's right with that. And that was 6. Okay.
So that should total 45, 41, 49.
No, I pulled that right out because I didn't even know what to do. All right, we're going to give you just about another 2 minutes, okay? Just in the interest of time. Don't worry if you don't get them all down, but if you want to finish up. So even though it's not more like a huge percentage, sure, it's got higher stakes because you have to have a minimum score of 30 or else you're at 0. So it's almost like an all or nothing kind of.
Well, there's a second opportunity to take it.
Make up. You cut it. Oh, yeah. Right, but it's still. Oh, I was saying cross country walk, and of course there used to be hiking arguments, and you know,
Obviously, there's no graded homework, so that's a big difference from college.
right. But you also have to put in here like what your expected readings are. Oh, this is math.
Right.
But
You're
still.
there's expected problem sets.
Right.
There's assigned problem sets. They're not graded. So, most will do it. And then attendance is not advised from the students. Told they have to show up in class.
See, like a lit class, so they have like these designated readings. And sometimes you don't have it. You'll end up studying like 4 readings in one day. Yeah, it's just going to really impact your life.
Just keeping up with the
Yeah.
readings, like when you're assigned these ones, that's great.
No, you gotta do that.
All right, if we could get your attention back, we're going to still do some talking. So, first of all, I guess I kind of want to go around to each one of the tables and talk about what a student might learn from this exercise, or what did you learn from this exercise? Any table want to volunteer?
I learned that it's a lot more work than what they might think it really is. Like, Hannah, what was that?
Yeah, and plus like how a lot of syllabi, the information is real, like, it's just dense. It's not kind of itemized out, so they really closely, the fact of the matter is they don't do that, so they don't really have emails. How are they going to go through syllabus with dense information?
Yeah.
Not that they can't, but it's just.
Right. Well, and they don't because they've never had to.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you ask students, I've asked them in the past, how many of you know what a syllabus is? And in the way past, they've said, no, nobody knows what a syllabus is. And then I got really surprised a couple years ago when I said, how many of you had a syllabus in high school? And I had a huge showing of hands. However, what that syllabus was from now until the end of, 2 weeks, and we're going to go through. So it wasn't a semester-long syllabus or a year-long syllabus, but at least they've heard of the term now. Michael, did you want to share something?
Oh, it just forces them to read, because they're going to bother the professor with, what does this do? Even if the professor went over it, they're going to email them, because you didn't tell me what to do.
Yeah, no.
It's a whole